Hey, Christy
Hey, Kathy.
and everyone. Welcome to Game of Books podcast. We're just
Yay.
having a regular old episode today, Christy and
Yep.
and we're
It's
talking about,
January. It's
yeah.
cold up there.
Oh, yeah. You can see if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the snow out my window.
Not here.
Yeah.
It's hot. But it's
And,
nice. It's like wonderful.
well, yeah, I'm jealous. That's why I usually come down to see you around this time of year.
Yeah.
That's our tradition, right? I go there in
Yep.
the winter.
I know. Get that
Um,
vaccine. Come on down.
I will be very ready to do that. So today we are discussing a book just that Christy and I were excited to talk about together. A book with lots of hype. I'm going to show you if you're watching on YouTube. It is called To Tell You the Truth by Gilly Macmillan.
hmm
And we loved it.
Yes.
Spoiler. Spoiler. That's the only spoiler you'll get from us today, though.
Yep. Yep. And of course, we're drinking wine while we discuss
We
it.
are drinking some wine. How did you know? It's so crazy. There it is. Christy's got the bottle. I left mine in my kitchen.
Kathy gets to pronounce it.
Okay, I did some research. I went to YouTube to figure out how to pronounce this. It's actually very easy. Hold the bottle up, Christy, again.
Okay.
It's spelled Freixenet, and the X makes you kind of confused, and it's actually just Friexenet or Friexenet. If you want
That's
to put a
so
little
funny
X.
because I was like, Friexenet?
But isn't it kind of a beautiful bottle, like all black?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes. And yours says Brut, but mine says Grand Selection.
oh, nice.
I know, but it's the same wine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only mine's grander.
Of course it is. Would you like to know why I chose that for today?
Yes, I would.
I kind of think you suspect, but we'll tell everyone.
Yes.
Because if they haven't read the book yet, they should get this wine or this champagne.
Yes.
And you'll tell me
Or
later. You'll
Cava.
correct me later. I know. She's just dying to correct me right now. But it's inspired by an early scene in the book. And when Christy and I read a book together that we're going to do on the podcast, where we, of course, like to pair our mystery books with food and wine, we're always on the lookout for what are they drinking? What are they eating? And so right away, this book deals with an author, and the character's name is Lucy Harper. She's a very, very famous writer, and she's finished her latest book. And to celebrate, her husband, Dan, has cracked open a bottle of champagne. And so
Yes.
I thought we have to have champagne.
So we're having bubbly.
So we're having bubbly. And this is a very, very well-selling bottle of bubbly. That's all I'm going to say because I know you're going to tell me.
Well, it's good. It's a well priced. It was like down here it was like $12.99 or something.
I think mine was right in that avenue. Maybe a little less, maybe $10.99, but right in that avenue. Mm-hmm.
And it tastes. Let's see. It's actually a cava. It's not a champagne.
All right, everyone.
Okay, so
Let's let Christy
did a little
us.
research. I did a little research, and I already knew that champagne because I'm the Francophile in me knew about champagne, and so champagne comes from the Champagne region and whatever, and then there's sparkling wines from other places, and then I don't know if we've had one on the podcast, but Prosecco. Also a sparkling wine, and it's from Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the sparkling wine from Spain is called Cava. And it comes from a region, and it has to come from that region and be, made with the Spanish grapes and with the traditional method, which is pretty similar to the way they make champagne. I mean, they're not injecting it with carbon dioxide. They're kind of doing it where it naturally ferments and bubbles. And so that's what it is. So Cava is this one is Spanish, even though the name.
I had never heard of Cava until you educated me when we were getting ready for this. So Cava is like Prosecco, which is like champagne.
They're all three sparkling wines, and they're regulated, their name is regulated from the country that they come from. And Spain produces a sparkling wine called Cava. And it's like in the area like northern Spain kind of. And
So in other words, an area we should visit.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to try to pronounce the grapes that are common in Cava. They're Macabeu, Paraleda, and Zarella, whatever. But this one is hints of citrus fruit and an aroma that reminds you of both apple and pear, as well as peach, melon, and pineapple. I think it's delish. I
you
do.
Know what? I am not I'll be honest with you, I'm not a huge champagne person because generally I don't like that sweet. I don't like wine that's that sweet. I'm not against a bubbly wine. But this is very nice.
Yeah. Well, it's not sweet. It could be, but this is Brut, which is the driest. And then there's dry and semi-dry. And then
and what's yours?
It's the same. It's a Brut, but it just has Grand Selection on it. But but it says on the top, right up here, it says Brut.
Oh, so. I see. Okay.
So
and
whatever.
So Brut is the drier, right, of champagnes.
Yes. Okay. Yes, because then even dry is less dry than Brut. And then semi-dry is more sweet.
Confused.
I know. Anyway, it is tasty. I do like it.
I think it's nice too. I should have.
This is a good one for me. I don't know. My kids probably like the really sweet ones, but
that's a very pretty little wine flute you have there, Christy.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers to you.
From my friend Linda.
Hi, Linda. Who's Linda?
She's my good friend and realtor. And
way to go, Linda.
She gifts me wine stuff. We have a long tradition of drinking wine, and she is another Francophile, so it's fun.
Awesome.
She's actually I think she probably did tour Champagne.
Nice.
Champagne, as we say. Anyway, so yeah. So there you go. And then what about the food with this book, Cathi?
Okay,
you got any ideas?
Well, the nice thing was, it's so funny because you and I try to pair things as if we were, and sometimes we cook the actual thing. If you were hosting a book club, you would for sure serve whatever it is we suggest, right? Obviously. And this was an easy go because the husband, Dan, to the writer, Dan's also a writer. And not nearly as successful as the author, the protagonist in this book, but he serves her champagne and a ragu. And I thought, well,
what the heck's a ragu? Actually, that's what I was thinking.
What'd you say?
I was kind of thinking, what is a ragu? I'm like, what's the difference between? I mean, is that the name? That's the label on that.
Well, it's not the ragu sauce. It's a type of sauce. Okay. And so it's my turn to educate you tonight. I'm very excited.
Thank you very much. I can't wait.
So a ragu they're both sauces for pasta, a ragu and a bolognese. Sorry, we're talking about ragu versus bolognese. And I didn't realize they were that related until I was looking up ragu recipes. And I dove deep, just like you did, into the champagne, Prosecco, Cava thing.
Cava.
I really learned about ragu versus bolognese, and they're both a sauce for pasta, but ragu is more with a red sauce and some veggies and always meat, where a bolognese is a type of ragu, and bolognese has cream in it, so you'll get that pink sauce, and it's made with a white wine, where ragu is made with a red wine.
Really?
So, yeah, I found this great article that describes the two, and I will link it in our blog.
But they both look red, right?
They do look.
They're tomatoes.
Yeah, the bolognese looks a little more
creamy-ish, like pinkish.
Maybe, more of like the vodka sauce, like in my mind, right. That looks like. But if I was making this for friends when I'm discussing this book, which I would love to be able to do, I would love to cook a meal for friends. I
Oh
mean,
my gosh.
oh my God.
I'm so tired of not being
I
able
am
to cook
too.
for
I miss
friends.
dinner parties. And anyway, I would love to make this with a crusty bread. And I'm telling you, my favorite um, recipe on this is from one of my favorite bloggers, which is the Smitten Kitchen. Have you ever heard of the Smitten? I think I've mentioned it before.
No, but it sounds so cute.
It is so cool. Deb Perlman is a New York City cook.
Mm-hmm.
And she started this blog. I mean, it's been a long time ago. I've been following her for like a decade, literally. And she says, I think
Really?
two
Does
cookbooks
she
out
have,
now.
so she has a restaurant
Nope,
or no?
just she has a food blog and she just cooks out of her own little tiny New York City apartment.
Well,
And
maybe she'll host us next
she,
time we go to New York.
I have got to subscribe to her newsletter. I just absolutely think we'd be best friends with her.
Okay, cool.
She makes this, what she calls her simple essential bolognese. And she actually did kind of give a mention that it's a type of ragu. But her recipe does use white wine and has some whole milk in it to make it creamier.
Mm-hmm.
And it is actually, it's funny, right before you and I were talking about doing this podcast, I had just printed out this recipe again because I was going to make it this weekend. So especially in this winter, as you can
Mm-hmm.
see, I've got snow blowing outside of behind my head here.
Yeah.
Outside the walls. I'm not outside, but it's a bolognese.
She's in a snow globe.
I'm in a snow globe in a hut. But it would be as equally as fine in a very nice day in Florida.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
it's funny. I haven't made homemade spaghetti sauce, which is what I call it, which apparently is bolognese.
Okay.
Not the ragu, because which one? The ragu has the cream.
They're both homemade pasta sauces. The ragu has the red sauce and it's a darker veggies.
That's the one I do, ragu.
Yeah. And actually there is, oops, sorry, my
I haven't made it in years and years and years and years. Once they had bottled Newman's Own or one of the
that's good.
I just get those, but I used to before that, like I learned it from my mom. I mean, I remember in college making a big thing of sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have a friend that still does that, makes the sauce, and whenever he does, it's like, okay, we're gonna have
like the process. I don't do it very often, but I like the process of it. Like it feels like a really homey Sunday kind of meal.
Yeah.
One thing I do like is I learned this from a different regular bolognese recipe, but I'll keep the rinds, on your Parmesan and I'll put them in saran wrap and put them in the freezer, and you throw that in your bolognese sauce or your pasta sauce, and just all that extra cheese that's still on there kind of melts off.
That is so funny because I had never heard of that until I was just looking at an article yesterday for black eyed peas, kale kind of dish. It was in Real Simple magazine, and it had like it was with bread, ciabatta bread, and then tomato sauce, and they said you put the rind in with the broth and cook it with that, and then you really take the rind out when it's done. I was like, I had never heard of that.
I always have like 4 or 5 rinds in my freezer.
Yeah,
it's ready. But I will tell you one clarification is that typically ragu sauces are used with a thinner pasta like a spaghetti, where bolognese is used for a wider shape pasta.
Oh,
FYI.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
We've really gone on the educational path today.
I know.
We should move on.
and we're hungry, apparently.
I am hungry now. I'm thinking, why?
All right, let's quickly get through the book so that we can go eat.
Quickly, because the book is nothing.
Oh yeah, nothing. No, it didn't take years of this woman's life to write. And
It is. So I'm excited to talk about this with you. I really am.
Me too. Okay, so I guess I can tell you a little bit about the book. It's To Tell You the Truth by, now you say Gilly, so I didn't know. Is it Gilly or Gilly?
I assumed Gilly. Okay. And I should have Googled it. on YouTube.
I don't know
like
if there's a
did
way to Google
Friexenet.
it, but
Well, I think you see
because
the
in my head I
author.
kept saying Gilly. So when you said Gilly, and then when I looked at it, I was like, because Gillian, but no, it's got a G, so it's Gillian, and
Well,
she lives in Europe, I think.
she
So
lives in
whatever.
England.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they don't know, they don't know how to pronounce things, right? I don't know. But anyway, so I think I'll call her Gilly.
Okay, let's do that.
Because that sounds like a fun
My
thing.
apology for not looking that up beforehand. I
Yeah,
apologize for that.
mine too. Okay, so she's a best-selling author of 7 novels,
Mhm.
and her first novel, What She Knew, was a Target pick, a Library Reads pick, an Indie Next pick, an Edgar Award nominee, and an International Thriller Writers Award finalist.
Wow. Her
So
first
she
novel?
came out the gate
Boom.
running.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
with good reason. She is a great writer.
Yes. So, and this book is Lucy Harper, like we mentioned earlier. She's a writer. And so in this book, when she was 9, her brother vanished in the woods near her home, and she was the only witness. And then she's crucial to the investigation, and her brother's whereabouts are still unknown. And then she's got this husband, Dan,
Mm,
who's got his own secrets.
yeah.
And, he starts doing weird stuff, and then she's responding. I'm telling you, you don't know what's going on.
You do
because
not.
she
Till the
is
end.
yes.
Until
'Cause
the end.
she's such an unreliable protagonist. You just don't know, because she's kind of unclear on things. And oh man, it was good. Page Turner,
Yes.
and
Oh, yeah.
and yeah,
I will
and
say, Christy,
go ahead.
you and I had decided to discuss this a bit ago.
Mhm.
And I think within just the last few weeks of December, I had noted that the New York Times, everyone does their end of the year list, and New York Times had listed this as one of the best thrillers of the year, and it's a short list.
Wow.
And by the way, it included another book we've already discussed, The Guest List by Lucy Foley.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one too.
It was.
And
So
they're
I
very
thought,
similar in
Mhm,
theme, I
they
would
do.
say.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of common things. I mean, very different books, but really
Right.
a couple of different things
Both
that are
good.
very similar. Yeah,
And that's funny because I'm not going to say.
because we're not giving spoilers, or what?
Yeah. We're
Okay.
not, well, I was going to say, when we started to prepare for this, I had read this book a while back, and I was trying to remember everything, because
And you
even
started
though it
getting
was really
confused.
good, you
Yeah,
start confused. And
yeah,
honestly, I was getting it confused with the guest list.
yeah.
And
Well,
then
you
I
know
was like,
why?
oh no, that's the one that did this. And
Don't you
yeah.
think we can move on
Yes.
to the first theme, and that's
Yes.
why?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so before
Gaslighting.
we get on to our first theme,
I
I'm
spoiled it. Go ahead.
I'm going to
Okay.
read a line from this book.
Okay.
I think maybe you imagined it. You know what you're like. Dan talking to his wife.
Oh.
So the wife, again, is a writer. Dan, the husband, let's say on occasion might be,
Is a jerk.
he might be could be accused of gaslighting. And it's funny,
Yeah.
Christy, because I went back today and I looked at all of the books that you and I have done individually, just our regular episodes, which are less than every other episode now, which is funny. And we have talked about gaslighting. It has been a prominent theme in The Guest List by Lucy Foley, in Pretty Things by Janelle Brown, and now this book.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
I know.
So I we really kind of dove deep on this episode, but I did a little research on gaslighting. And I had sent you the article because I was so curious by it. I found
and honestly, I think I had read that article or similar, because when we did the guest list, I was doing research on gaslighting, because I was like, this is a crazy phenomenon,
Yeah.
but it's not as unusual as you think. And then you think, well, half the country's been gaslighted. I'm just saying, but
yeah. And so, excuse me, the cava is getting to me.
champagne.
The cava, which by the way is getting more and more delicious with every single sip. Just saying. So I had found this article, the 11 warning signs of gaslighting. And it's from Psychology Today, I believe. Yeah, it is. And it's interesting because if I was writing a book about gaslighting, I would have wished I had found that. But I can't believe that. I mean, this is so interesting. And I am so sorry for people who have this going on in their real life, but it is so epically good for a thriller. I mean, listen to some of the warning signs. He or she tells blatant lies. Okay. You and I both know that happened in this book, right?
Yep.
They deny they ever said something, even though you know they did, and you might have proof. They use what is near and dear to you as ammunition. I mean, think of this book, her writing, right? Mm-hmm. They wear you down over time. They know confusion weakens people. I mean, I was just like, oh, this book is like the 11 warning signs are in this book. It's so interesting.
And it happens so gradual that it can happen to anybody. And that's what the article was saying is like, it can happen to anybody because it's a very gradual thing. It's like, you just don't realize it. And then suddenly, and this is what cult leaders use. I mean,
political leaders.
Yeah. It's
scary. Yeah. It's really scary.
But you can see it from the outside, but nobody believes you because they've convinced the person that you're the liar.
Yeah.
Like if you tried to tell them.
My favorite is number 10. They tell you that you are crazy, which is just that line I read. Like, I was like, that is just so classic. And then they tell you everyone else is a liar. Scary.
Yep.
So I can see why so many authors are digging deep, especially in our current climate where truth is
so distorted.
A few years ago. And it's so ripe for literature to investigate this and make us all question what and who we have in our lives that are telling us things that we should question.
Right.
So interesting.
I know. It is. And it makes a good page turner. That's for sure.
It does. This book, like you said, you do not know until the end. I mean, it's so good. Okay. So, hey, let's move on to something that the main character does. Changes her name.
Yeah.
I am fascinated by this. We're not talking a marital name change, like changes her name.
She changes her first name too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big deal.
It is. Christy, I don't know. You changed.
But she did. What time did she do it?
She did it after things that have evolved. We don't want to give anything away.
So how old was she though?
A young adult, I would guess. Adult, but young. But I even look back. I changed my name when I got married. I changed from my maiden name, which was Forster, to Twittero, and I remember that being harder than I imagined. And I will tell you that my husband, who had already established his career, he actually offered to change his name, which was, I know. I mean, shortly after we got engaged, he said he had thought this out because he knew what it was to do that, I think. And I was not established in my career yet because I'm younger than he is. And I always thought that was such not something to be taken for granted. I really appreciate that he wasn't taking the name change thing for granted for me. And he didn't presume I was going to. I did choose to because, frankly, Forster Twittero is just a lot of letters.
Right.
But it was interesting, I thought, making that change. But that's one thing, right? So many people do that, or, that's a common thing but to change your first name and your last name, like completely try to erase your identity is a totally different thing, don't you think?
Right. Because, I do the same thing. I have different name, my maiden name and my formerly married name that I use in different circumstances at this point. But I can remember there are reasons why people might, but I remember there was some people just call themselves by different names, I guess. I don't know. But I remember when I was younger, when I was a flight attendant, there was a guy that we knew and we met him. We went through training, and his name was, it escapes me right now, but I think it was Jose. Okay.
Okay, yeah, let's just
And
pick a different name.
And so he was from South America. A lot of flight attendants are very international. But then all of a sudden, after we had gone through and we were like hanging out, we're out in New York, whatever, he says, well, my real name is Dan.
Oh.
And we were like, what? So you're used to calling somebody Jose, and then all of a sudden you're like, how do I call you Dan? That's so weird because I know you as Jose. And he was like, well, no, I just put that on my, because that was like either his real name or whatever. But, it helped with getting the job as a flight attendant, on an international airline.
Jose sounds a little more international than Dan, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I was like going, oh my gosh, how are we going to, I don't know if I can call you Dan. I've been calling you Jose for months now. I thought of you as
Jose. Well, there is a lot to a name, really. I mean, it's interesting. And Christy, I should tell you, my name is not Cathi. It really is not. I don't have a good name to cook with. No, I'm joking. I'm totally joking.
Oh my God. You scared the heck out of me. I was like, oh my God, I'm finding this out on the podcast.
No, I'm joking.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's Catherine.
Well, but yeah.
I did change the spelling of my name though in high school. I just thought about this.
Yeah.
I have not thought about this forever.
Kids do that a lot though. They change their spelling to be.
I went from Cathy, which is what my parents, shortened Catherine to. Apparently, when I was a freshman, I thought I'd be very cool, and I would go to Cathi.
Oh yeah.
And it stuck, and I have no memory of anyone ever discussing this with me. Like I don't remember parents saying, "This is what you want to do," or my school, and it just stuck. And I have no idea how and when that happened, but it's not funny. Because our character in the book did have, I think, a bit of an identity crisis and needed to change that name because it was so surrounded by pressure from what had happened when she was little. And I just found that to be really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I wonder, can you really escape that stuff? Even though you change your name and try to move away, clearly didn't work very well here.
I think it could have worked. It could work. It worked better in the past than it does now, just because of social media and stuff. It just depends on how long you start on social media and all that. But
yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, so I know. How much fun has this book been though? I mean, I think this would be such a blast as a book club.
Yeah, when you can really talk about all this stuff. Oh my God.
I know. You could do it via Zoom. That's what Christy and I do all the time. But man, it's nice to think about doing it together someday.
Yep. Yeah.
You should make Ragu for those you love and those you read with.
Yes. And read this book because it's a page turner. And have it with some Cava, right?
Don't you think the discussion goes so well with Cava? Look at my glasses getting lower.
I know. Look at mine's getting lower too.
Here, let me find my book. I'll take a picture here. This will be our YouTube. Connor finds some pretty crazy covers for us. Here, I'll do this. Cheers, Christy.
Cheers.